Hey everybody, how are you today? I am Sandee Payne. I am a realtor here in Fort Hood, Texas with the Design to Sell Real Estate Group. But more than that, I'm also the host of this amazing podcast that I've created. It's called the PCS Project. And this is where we're going to talk to agents and military members all over the country. We're going to get the scoop on duty stations and what's happening in the real estate market. And I am so excited today because I have a friend of mine, Tim Royster. He is from the DMV. And we'll get to tell you what that's about. And we're going to share today, going into the new year, just all kinds of interesting information about the market and local attractions and just anything that we want to share with Tim. So welcome.
Thank you, Sandee. It's nice to be here with you.
Yes. Well, I know that you're East Coast, so you're probably dealing with some fun weather about now.
You know what? We cannot complain. It's like 50 degrees in January. We're going to take it. And
yeah. Wow. Yeah, take it. Because here in Texas, we're like 70. We've had a couple little cold mornings, but nothing crazy yet. So yeah, going into the new year, I want to ask you a couple questions before we kind of get into your market, so our audience can kind of get to know you a little bit more, because it's so important when you're PCSing. A lot of times, people are just Googling real estate agents, and we all know in every market there's thousands. And I find people who kind of feel like they know me a little bit more, we have a little bit more of a personal relationship. They can kind of relate to me, and I'm not just like throwing a dart, at Google. So I want to kind of talk a little personal, get to know you a little bit, get our audience to know you a little bit, and then we're going to dive into the DMV market and what that looks like.
Sounds good.
Okay, so first guest of the new year, 2023. A big thing I know in the real estate industry is we're always like, what's your word of the year? So what is your word of the year and why?
Well, you gave me about good 4.5 minutes to think about that. So, I think I do have a word of the year. I mean, I look at my business plan and I look at all these things, but the biggest thing that if I look at the big thing that is our focus this year is our clients and our past clients. And what does that mean? So when I say our intentional conversations, making sure they know that we're not just a transactional team, that we're actually here to be a part of their team of financial advisors to make sure that they're making smart decisions and that we're keeping them tabs on what their property value is like. And actually this weekend alone, if any of my clients are listening now, they're all getting called on Saturday, and we're all committing to ourselves to them to let them know that we're going to be tracking the value of their home all year. And on their home anniversary, we're going to talk to them and we're going to see if there's what's their improvements they need to do. Have they had any thoughts of doing certain things with this additional money that has been made and on their homes, so their equity position. So we're really excited to make sure that this year is focusing on our clients and past clients. That's not one word, but it's one theme. How about that?
I love it. I love it that it's a theme. I kind of just pulled like in intention or in being very intentional. I love that because we can get of course, we're so squirrely in this business. As realtors, we're running everywhere. We've got to record videos. We've got to show houses. We've got to swap lock boxes and run families. And we can be very chaotic. And I don't know if you experience this, but I have, where next thing you know, it's 4:00 and I'm like, well, I don't even know if I got anything accomplished today. And that's not a very intentional day. But I love loving on your clients. They hear so many headlines, they hear the news, they hear things on social media. They've got to be confused, overwhelmed, and kind of fearful, because they are sitting on a value, the probably biggest investment in their portfolio, and they don't really know what to believe. And when they do hear it, they're hearing things on a national level. So how does that apply to them? So I love that you're getting like super granular. And what I also love about that, Tim, is you've included them in part of your team. And I think a lot of times we're like, don't you worry about it. Our team's got it, And what we wind up doing there is we're running around doing their transaction and working on other stuff. And it's like silence to them.
Yeah.
And I think bringing them in, into the process. Hey, wanted to let you know, I put a post out today. Here's a screenshot. Really touching with them and making them part of the team and getting their feedback, is really huge. I love that. And if there are realtors that are listening and you don't have a word, adopt the theme. Adopt Tim's theme. My word, just out of curiosity, if you're curious,
I am curious.
I have a feeling you were gonna throw that at me. My word of the year is uncomplicated.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because even just for me, and me and all the things that I do, a lot of it is it kind of bleeds together. And when all the things that we do kind of bleed together, from the podcast to the business to the team to the new app that I've just launched, like my family, my travel, like it all can kind of bleed together. But that can cause things to get really complicated. So I'm trying to just have things as uncomplicated as possible. Do I need to set up better systems? Do I need to bring more people into my life to help keep all those things organized so that it's enjoyable, right? Because when we get complicated, we get overwhelmed, we get stressed, and we start to somehow get negative. I think that's just a natural thing. And we start to complain. No room for that. So I think being uncomplicated and just keeping everything flowing is my word, uncomplicated.
I think I like it, and I'm gonna keep you accountable to that. How about that?
Okay, fair
In
enough.
a few weeks, I'll ask you are you still keeping things uncomplicated?
We got on the call and I said, please tell me I don't look exhausted, right? Fake it till you make it. No. But I think that helps. I think it helps to have that word and to really be able to structure your day, to be intentional and keep things uncomplicated. So at the end of the day, you're like, okay, I got done what I needed to do today, guilt-free, you know what I mean? Type of thing. So interesting. I'm originally from New Jersey, and your area is called the DMV. So my brain goes Department of Motor Vehicle right away. So explain to me, maybe people who haven't heard that term, or other agents who haven't heard that term, where does that come from? What does that mean? And tell me a little bit about kind of what your market encompasses.
Yeah. So, and I'll just go back to when I first got here, when I was in the Army. That's in 2005. So that's a long time ago. But I was hearing that everywhere, DMV. I could not understand. I was like, I'm living in Virginia. What is this DMV? And then obviously in the military, especially here, everything's an acronym, right? It's like, right? It's like, oh yeah, okay, you work for the so-and-so. What does that mean? You gotta go out and Google it, find it. Well, right. DMV is short for the Washington, so DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And it's this little melting pot of 3 jurisdictions, right? You got the state of Maryland, and you have the district, and you have Virginia, but we get this nice beltway that just kind of pushes it all together. So DMV, you live in the DMV. People that are Maryland residents will say, I'm from Maryland. The people that are from Virginia will say, I'm from Virginia. And if you're DC, I live in the district. So it's very clear. So if you talk to someone, yeah, we're in the DMV, but I'm actually a Virginian, so you'll hear that all the time, but it's a way to understand the area. I would talk to other people that are some of the Tom Ferry people will say, hey, where are you from? We'll say Northern Virginia. That means nothing. But if I say DMV and I say DC, all of a sudden they have an understanding of where we are, right? So that's it. So Northern Virginia is where we do our business, where we raise our kids, where we love on our people, our clients, but we live in the DMV.
Okay. So I love the fact, and thank you for your prior service. I appreciate that. My husband was also prior service, 23 years. I like to say I was too, because I hung around for 23 years and did all the things. But that makes us really unique. And it makes us really important to our military families that are relocating, because, even if you say, hey, we've fought the same war, we've walked in the boots, like all those things, there is like a weird culture and character in a military life. And being that we've experienced that, I think there's just an automatic like brotherhood.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like 100%. It can't be broken.
No, it can't be broken. And every single military client that I've had, which is like 90% of my clientele here, everybody can like, there's always some commonality. Even the ones that are like significantly younger, it's like their commanders were my husband's associates. Like there's always some little, you find, it's like we desperately find what's the connection. Did you do Iraq? Did you go to Iraq? Where were you? Where were you? And we dig around and we find that connection. And I think that's just part of the special thing that we have, because there's a lot of realtors around military bases that have not served just because they've lived there through business or whatever that brought them there. So I think that makes it really special. And that's why I love highlighting other agents around military bases, especially ones who have served in some capacity, because there's just an understanding.
There is, and there's an appreciation for what the sacrifices they've gone through. The PCS, as you know, I think you did like 15, 18, right? And with your husband's career, I mean, it's a lot. You talk about complicated and stressful.
Yeah.
I understand what they're going through, not because I did it, but because I watched that in their community with our clients within the community. It is not a piece of cake. Friends, neighbors, church friends, you watch them, and what has to go on just to make this happen is not an easy task at all.
Yeah.
So,
buying or selling a house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
then you throw in that. Yeah, then I got to find a place that's, the shelter, a place for my kids to go to school. How close is it to the base? I mean, all these things, oh yeah, I'm going to get there. And then my husband's going to be going off for tour for 6 months. It's like, and he can't focus on finding the house. And then the wife it's hard. And so it's something that when you hear them say, I'm, military, all of a sudden you go, I want to help. How can I help? Let's dig in. Where can we help and understand this process to simplify this as much as we can in this very chaotic, quick moves. It's typical Army, right? Or military. Hurry up and wait, right? You're going to move, but you don't know yet. And then you get the orders and boom, it's time.
It's like you're out the door. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you experience a lot, I say we're going to be coming upon a pretty busy military season. Always in the new year, kind of end of January, beginning of February, all the chatter for who's going where and what's starting to happen. And I find myself quite a master at FaceTime showings.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you agree. A lot of your showings pre-PCS season are all done via FaceTime. And what was it like the first time you did a FaceTime walkthrough? I don't know if it was I think we have a little advantage because I think a lot of people jumped into that video right at the pandemic when everything was shut down. But I feel like I've kind of been doing FaceTime videos like way before that. Yeah. So tell me about, if you can even remember, I know some of these questions are kind of just thrown out there. What was your first FaceTime video like?
Yeah, great question. It was probably not the best. I was doing better at just telling them what was going on because my camera wasn't showing exactly what it was supposed to be showing. They're looking at a corner. I'm going, yeah, I'm seeing a little separation over here in the corner. Like, where? You're like, oh yeah. And then you have to so it's making sure that camera was your eyeball. But I mean, that was like, you're right. When the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, we're just going to do this for every client. Okay. So it made sense. And I realized real quickly that our clients needed us to be not just boots on the ground. We were like smelling the house, checking things out. I started looking at the properties a lot differently.
Yes.
Yeah, because they go, we're going to make it up there. And even in a pandemic, we're going to come up there and take a look at. So I want to make sure that those 3 properties we're going to see are clearly setting the expectation of what I told them about. Over video. So it's comfortable. I mean, even yesterday, Sandee, one of our listings, the agent called me and she goes, Tim, what's January 4th, right? She said, Tim, I got some military clients that got the orders. Is it okay if I just do a FaceTime tour in the properties? Of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I mean, she asked because that's what they're supposed to do. But I was like, yes, do what you need to do. Spend as much time as you want. You got a full hour.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes I'm even a little more thorough. I know that's kind of like weird, because if they're physically here, we expect that they're driving the neighborhood, that they're checking out the park or the pool or the whatever. They're not, right? But we make these assumptions. And I feel like, oh my gosh, okay, you're not even here. Let me go drive around the neighborhoods. Let me take videos of the schools. Let me like do all this extra. And I'm literally with a fine tooth comb in the house showing them every little nook and cranny. Where
Right.
if they're physically with us walking around, I think they're sometimes like, oh, how do we lay out the furniture, or would this layout work? And they're not looking on that kind of macro level. They're just kind of like, yeah, we could live here. But yeah, I feel like it's almost a little more detailed and a little more intense of a process when they're not here. I think the biggest fear I always have is like, what if they show up and they're like, we bought what? Like, this is not, I want them to be like, this is exactly what we expected, like that expectation you talked about, like, oh my gosh, you were so thorough, we wouldn't even have noticed these things. So yeah, I think just honing that craft, and feeling really good when people are happy with their choice, because a lot of times we don't really, they don't step into their foot until after they've arrived. They've closed notaries, they've closed virtually, I'm holding their keys waiting for them to get here, which is bizarre to me. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could trust that.
Our military is resilient. But
I
they're
know.
also, if they're trustworthy once you show them that
Mhm.
you're able to be trusted.
Yeah.
And once they can pick it out quick, because they have to know who's on my side or who's not,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And you quickly, they can perceive that, and it's like, okay, let's go. So Tim's got our back. Or they'll talk to some of their friends that are already here,
Hmm.
and they will, that's the other part of that, this military, that their friends will come and see the house with you.
Yeah.
And they'll
Yeah.
go, Sally, yeah, it's good. Tim's right. This looks good over here. Or Tim is right that there is a crack over there on that part of the foundation. You just don't worry about it. Let's cut this one out. And
Yeah.
so they lean on their friends as their trusted advisor to find a house that's $500, $700, $800, $900,000,
I
but
know.
do it because there's that much trust that
Yeah.
they're going to be taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a big testament to us, just in general, as good, producing realtors in our area. I think that's something we really, really have to pay attention to, especially this year. The last couple of years, it's been, I don't want to say easy by any means, but from an overall standpoint, people had to sell. You listed, it sold. Like, there wasn't a lot of um time, like these new agents in the last couple of years, like a 6-month listing, they wouldn't even know what to do after the first day. Like, they'd be like, I don't get it. So I think this is a really, really important year for us to have really good knowledge, in-depth, valuable knowledge, really, really, really know our communities like really well. So we're more than just a real estate agent that helps them facilitate the transaction. We're like the mayors of our communities, and we have to know all the things, we're all the sports and where to do all the things. So tell me, because we're going to let's jump into that. What areas would you say? Now, of course, I don't want to, there's no favorites or whatever, but just as if I were saying, hey, Tim, we're moving, we're coming to the DMV. I don't even know where to start. What does that look like? What types of things do you share that kind of gets them set into, maybe you want to be in this area more than this area? So talk to me kind of what that looks like.
Yeah, that's great. I actually had a client about 6 weeks ago. They called me right at the beginning of December, found me on YouTube. He was retiring from the military, took a new job at the Pentagon, and he's retiring from, I think they were in I think Missouri or something like that. And so he said, we found you on YouTube, and we're really interested in this. Saw that you're military. It's going to help us a lot.
Mhm.
Last time I was here was 1992.
Oh boy.
Where do I live now? That's how the conversation went. Where do I live now? And I
Mhm.
said, great. So here's the thing. There's really 3 things, and I think it's important. It's like, how much do you want to spend? How much house do you want? And how much are you willing to drive? What's your commute?
Mhm.
I shouldn't even say drive, should your commute, because we are in the DMV and it's pretty congested. There's some places that say that they have the best ranking traffic in the country. They haven't come here. It's terrible. Okay. So you got to understand what that dynamics first is understanding what you want to do. I mean, if you're okay with a 45-minute commute on a bus or a VRE, like the Virginia Railway Express or the metro station, the Metro bus, that's great. Then we can get it to my house. But that is the first thing. How much you want to spend? How much house do you want? And how much commute do you want? It's really simple. But once we do that, it's then just understanding the tailoring of what they're looking for. But what's most important to you? Well, I need to have or we have kids. We want to make sure that we have great schools. Okay, well, welcome to Northern Virginia. We are one of the best places with the best school systems in the whole entire nation. So good job. We got that part. Now we just look at see what kind of sports. There's people say we are looking for a lacrosse program. We're looking for a great football program. Okay, great. Now we can get down to check out these the top 10 in the state. So once we understand those dynamics, that's important. The other thing, Sandee, is that they've also asked us a little bit more of like Fort Belvoir. I live in Fairfax, which is probably about 35 minutes from Fort Belvoir. But there's people that's a huge installation, huge. And a lot of people live there. A lot of people live around there, and they say, I want to be close there because that's where the military hospital is. That's, and those are things I say, great. How long of a commute from Fort Belvoir? So we just have to make sure that we understand that. And you can't use Google. Here's the tip. You cannot use Google to figure out what that time is like. It changes every day. What happens here? So you need to understand what are your best routes to go. And so I was telling this client of ours the other day, saying, well, if you're looking at Herndon, you need to make sure that you take you have the metro over there access, and that's going to show you how long it's engaged to the Pentagon. You go from red to the blue line. They were, gotcha. I said, why don't you try doing that since you're here for the week? Okay, let's do it. And then they go, no, negative. That's not going to work. So we just try to show them what that picture looks like, create the boundary at that point, and then find out what's most important. I have some clients he's a veteran, but he's also in the State Department. Called me, they're in Japan. There you go. Perfect idea of home tours. I was doing home tours at 6 p.m. There, it's like 2 a.m., right? Whatever it was. Or vice versa. We're writing offers I do offers late at night and they're up in the morning. So it was crazy. But the thing for them, I said, what's most important for you guys? And they said, we need a large home and we have a budget of this amount. I said, welcome to Stafford. And they said, that sounds perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for, because I wanted a reverse commute. He says, I'm going to be at Quantico sometimes. I'll be up at, Fort Belvoir sometimes, but I don't want to be in between. Perfect. So we just have to understand the dynamics of that family, of what is most important to them. Some will sacrifice time on the metro because they need that bigger home and they want to afford that bigger home. And that's just how they created their family and with their lifestyle. We'll have others that'll say, nope, I'm going to jam myself in a $700,000 townhouse close in because I love being at the great restaurants and I want to be all this and I want to go to the Nats games. And, and you're like, perfect. Then as long as you understand what your lifestyle is, then we can show you where you can be for that. And it's not that hard, but it's daunting when you realize that there's 97, metro stations and, so many people in this area in the DMV. I mean, you have to really understand what it is that is most important to you.
That's crazy because that's nothing like here at Fort Hood. We don't have metro system. I think there's a bus. I think there's a hop. I don't know where it goes or what it does. Walmart to Walmart. I don't know. I've never even gotten on it, but nothing like that. And that's a lifestyle change. Like you said, like if I were bringing my family there, like I wouldn't even know. I've never lived that life. So I would be relying like really heavily on you. We recently bought a property in Denver for my daughter who was moving there. I kind of felt like we were doing like this PCS thing because one, I wasn't the realtor, so I was not in control of anything. And it was crazy, and it really made me kind of be on the other side of the transaction, kind of as the non-realtor piece, as the buyer, relying so much on the agent that I chose, that I knew over there in Denver, to we bought completely sight unseen. We didn't step foot in it till after a month after we closed, when we moved my daughter there. And it really opened my eyes to, it's weird to be the buyer. You know what I mean? To kind of be asking my agent to have done all the things I asked them to do. Sometimes I was like, I hate to ask you like one more time, but like, can we go one more time? Can you go look at this one? Can you go look at that one? And it made me realize how valuable we are, especially to our military clients that are moving from a complete, not even a different state, but a completely different lifestyle. Like from here to Virginia would, like, rails and what? Like I wouldn't even know what was going to work for me. So I would do that. I would just say, hey, this is my family, this is my thoughts. Like, I'm trusting you to tell me where my life needs to be there, based on that information. And that's huge. That's really, really huge. And I love to hear that, which really goes perfectly with your client theme for the year. So what are the things that you feel like you've done, and what are the things in kind of going with this theme, talking about clients and client care? What are some things that you've brainstormed about adding that maybe you think will better that experience? Do you have like one or two that you realize were kind of a missing puzzle piece?
Yeah, I did. So one of the things that we're going to be doing this year, say one, it's actually going to be quite a few. We're already lining up a lot of different workshops. One of the things that we're going to be doing now is, guess what? Most people
Mhm.
don't even think about
Mhm.
after they close on that house, they're like, okay, now we get to move in. It's all done. And yeah, you should celebrate that time. But one of the other things, like, congratulations, you just bought a house. Here's something we need to start talking about, and that's estate planning. I mean, there's things that we're going to be doing estate planning. Why is this important? You need to understand how to have this house in the right estate. How are you structuring your estate? You have a great asset here that you own, but unfortunately, someday you may pass away before you expected to, and we just make sure that everything's in line. So when they start seeing that we're thinking about all of those things, we're also going to be having a financial planner talking about seasons of life that change, retiring, getting out early, whatever it may be. We have clients that will, be medically discharged, and they're like, what do I do now? I say, okay, great. Let's talk about that.
Mhm.
Welcome to this part of the world. We're going to show you how you can actually get connected and get great jobs here locally.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
all of those things matter. And so our big thing this year is making sure for our clients, we're taking sure, like, financial planners, estate planners, what's the best ROI on anything you're doing at the house? Look, I'm going to be doing a YouTube video on this week, but the return on investment isn't what it used to be.
No.
And I'm not saying it in a negative way. We just have to understand that those last 2 years have not because of supply, but what it's done that with inflation, it costs more for everything. And guess what that does? That will limit how much of an ROI. I'm not saying you don't do it, but some of our clients are going to be considering, like, I should just had this last year, Sandee, as a military, bought a house, called me up 8 months later, says, I'm just getting reassigned over to Fort Meade, and it's 85 miles. It's too far. What do I do? So we're going to talk to a financial planner. We're going to make a good plan. And so they understood, I'm going to keep this asset because we love it. And we're
Mhm.
going to rent it out. And we're going to be able to use our VA eligibility again and buy another house. And they're short-term renting because they're going to do that. And so it's making smart decisions. So I think our job here for our veteran community, but even with our clients, is just making sure that we have every part of this piece to make sure that asset is protected and it's creating a lot of wealth in their portfolio, and it's a place that they love and enjoy. It makes a great place to live,
Yeah.
but also long term. And so we keep thinking with our clients, when you buy here, it's expensive. So make it a smart investment, and
Mhm.
let's start thinking about your exit strategy for this home. And they never said, I didn't really think about that. It's like, well, I think it's important.
Yeah.
How long are you going
Yeah.
to live here? What are you going to do after you retire? Are you going to stay here? A lot of people stay here for 2 careers. They get out of the military and they stay here for another 20 years of the DOD, and they bought their house for $67,000. Now it's worth $1 million, right? But it
Mhm.
was all financial planning. And so I think it's our obligation as realtors and as their advocate and an advisor is to be able to say, let's do this and make this smart decision now so that we know what we're doing with this home later on. And
Yeah, because crisis mode, when you're in the moment of a crisis or a big life change, that's not the smartest time to plan these things.
no. And
Yeah.
I love our military. They're helpful for getting trust and all that on base, but I don't really think that they're thinking in this true way that you might want to have a financial advisor outside really look at everything and give you some really sound advice than just drafting up paperwork.
Right.
They're all there for a great reason, but I think that there's more to your house and everything else in your life need to look at a professional outside of this to get this all set up.
Yeah. I love that. That's
Mhm.
such a good extra thing. That's such a good nugget. 'Cause I think a lot of times, you'd sell them a house and like you're on to find the next client. And then we wonder, 2 years later, we try to reach out with them and they've already sold, they've found somebody else. So kind of that relationship is really big because let's face it, most most buyers will just speak on a buyer moment. Most buyers don't need us to find them a house. By the time they contact us, they're like ready. They want to go look at it. The
Mhm.
internet shows them what's out. They can look at pictures. They can do all that. So our role is kind of changed, and I think it's going to be ever changing. So now, yes, we're going to help you negotiate this piece of your portfolio, but we're also going to be here to be part of your life to help you grow. You know what I mean? And set you up for success, not just in the sale, but like long term.
Yeah.
I love that. That's wonderful. And
I
that's
gotta share one thing
yeah.
with Sandy is that just like the other day, more than anything, it was New Year's Eve. I get a Facebook message from a past client veteran. Said, "Hey Tim, we're thinking about doing some big projects this year on our house." And he said, "I'm trying to figure out if it's good to do a HELOC or do a refi." I said, "You need to talk to him right here." He goes, "Oh, this is so good." I
Mhm.
said, "Which projects?" He says, "Windows, roof, this." I said, "You need to talk to these 3 different vendors." He said, "They're not big sales." So that means more to me with them to know that they reached out to me on it's New Year's Eve. And then they knew that I was going to respond to them,
Yeah.
and that means a lot to me to know
Yeah.
that I was a part of a part of that equation with them to
Yeah.
say, "Oh, let's talk to Tim."
Yeah.
Because that's what Tim values, what they've bought and them as, human beings and good friends and clients.
I love that. And you say friends because it's crazy how close we get
Mhm.
for those who want that, right? I mean, there's people who don't really want that, but it's amazing how, Christmas card time comes around and you're like, "Oh my gosh, it's cool." I think if you're not in it, you don't get it. But yeah, the value we have and how close we get with people, and we go to kids' birthday parties and kids' sports games and stuff, and all the extra stuff. And I love that too when people reach out to me knowing that if I don't have the answer, I'm going to get it for you, and I'm kind of just a really great resource. So let's jump into resources because of course you are in one of the most congested places ever, apparently. And you kind of mentioned restaurants. So give me an idea of like, what are like the cool things? Like if you don't live here, you don't know. Like what would be like
Yeah,
Google stuff. When we travel, I'm always like things to do in
sure.
Washington,
Yeah.
DC, but like beyond the normal tourist attractions, like what would
Mhm.
you say are some of the cool, like gotta be local?
Yeah. Wow. We need another podcast, but I will say this. We start with this because I don't think a lot of people really realize how great of a location we are in. For instance, you mentioned Phil Gertis out there in Maryland, and he's right by the water. And so in DMV, we have everything in DMV with our culture here, but then within about 2.5 hours, we can get over to the ocean. We can go to Chesapeake Bay in an hour and a half. If you want to get out to the mountains, it's only about an hour and a half out to the mountains.
Mhm.
And you can just clear your head. You want beach, you want mountains. I almost want to call it, it's not exactly the same thing, but it's like the San Diego of
Sure.
East
Yeah.
Coast.
Yeah.
We don't have it as cool as them, but we will take it. And it's lovely. But I think what people don't realize here is the beautiful nature that's around it. When you see like the things on TV, you see like, oh, the Capitol, and you see all the congestion there. But man, there is so much beauty. There's so many hiking trails. There's so many things to do with children. The kids, I mean, I got 3 kiddos, and once they're bouncing off the walls of the house, we can go down to the lake. We can go down and go fishing, and it's just down the block. Or you can go to the trails and take a hike in the mountains, it just within an hour away. Or if you want to go ahead and get some head knowledge, and that's important too, you go to all the Smithsonian. We just can drive, 25, 30 minutes into DC. And guess what? Then we just have all of these great museums here. And so we can teach our kids history. We can, you can teach yourself and learn for yourself history, the good, the bad, but there's just so many things about that. And I'll say another thing about this is that we have so many small little towns that people don't really know about. I'm in Fairfax. There's this cute little town called Clifton, just 10 minutes from me. And you just think you walked into a different world driving out there. You're like, am I still in the DMV? Am I still in Northern Virginia? You have all those towns. And I gotta say this because of the military background, but there is, and I don't think you really know it until you get here, there is such a patriotic feel here. There are certain times of the year, I was just thinking about this morning if I was talking to you, but there's Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and 4th of July. There is a time, it's a pretty politically heated area. We get that.
Sure.
But on those days, all that stuff just doesn't matter. And you sense it, you see it with the flags in the yards, you see it with the parades, you see how the community gathers. The Democrats and the Republicans and the independents, they all like, we don't care right now. We're here because of these special days that make our country great.
Yeah.
You sense it in every person up here, you can tell. And I think that is what's lovely. And then the other thing about it is that because of that, the military community is so loved. So loved. I mean, I'm sure like in yours with your base, it's the same thing, but I think it's different. A little different here. I'm a little biased, but we have every branch of the military here, right? And so you'll see the Navy, and you'll see the Air Force, and the Coast Guard, you see the Marines, the Army, and it's like, wow, my kids get to experience seeing all these great attributes of our military, and how their role is to make sure our country is safe and protected and doing amazing work to keep us, as a nation that is protected and safe. And so what's special, I can tell you the food is great. We have the culture here is amazing. You can go into Arlington, you can go in here and you can eat amazing Indian food. You can have Ethiopian food, Chinese, and it's authentic. So gosh, if you want to be a foodie, you can follow us on our IG channel for that. We'll talk about food a lot. My wife does that.
I was going to say, go ahead and make sure you drop your handles and your shout out, because
so
that's important.
We're all about that. We're foodies. So we love that. And so once you get into Northern Virginia and you see that there's such a depth and richness in the culture and the community, and you can't deny that there's people that love our country here.
I love that. Makes me want to come there to visit.
You should. I'll turn you around. Yeah.
It's funny that you say you can do everything, because I remember growing up in southern New Jersey, we didn't go very far when we traveled, because we could hit the Poconos, we could hit the beach. It's exactly what I grew up with, and I remember that. And we could actually just drive to DC for a one-night trip and have those experiences, school trips, where DC was a big one for us. I love that. If you could, this is a fun question. If you could, I know you're in Fairfax, but knowing what you know now, living there and helping so many people, because you're exposed to everything, right? I think sometimes when you move and you're in one spot, you kind of stay in a bubble, but you have to be all knowing. If you could pick one place to live, just one that you feel like would have been the full package, is there one place where you would say, if I had a chance to move here, I would do that?
Yeah. So I think it would be at the right season of life. Maybe when we were first married, I would have loved, and I think, when the kids get out of school and college and all that and go away, I think I'd be back there, and that would be Old Town Alexandria. I don't know if you've ever been there or not, but there's so much history. You see these cobblestone, roads. You walk by a building and it says purchased by George Washington. You just see the history of our great nation everywhere. The historic Christ Church, the Gadsby Tavern, where all of these great things happen. You're like, I'm walking where huge things were decided for our nation right here. And so I think if I was going to live anywhere, I would really consider Old Town. Now, Old Town Alexandria, that's 22314, is expensive. It's an expensive area. But
I didn't ask you if money were involved.
if money was not involved, so I was like, if I could live there, I would live there. I love that little area. But another place I would look at that's up and coming that I really, really, really like.
Okay, that was actually going to be my next question.
Oh, good.
Where are the new spots? What's the new?
I tell my clients all the time, they go, well, have you just considered, I mean, that it's still quite affordable. And I like it because it has a small town feel. There's a lot of development going on there, but I still think they're trying to keep that small town feel within the professional, the bottle of developments going on. And I just love Herndon. There's some neat little things. There's a great breweries down there, some coffee shops, and the vibe is just very cool. It's very close to a metro station. There's a community golf course. It's right in the W&OD trail, which goes all the way back into DC for bike riding or out to Purcellville. So I really like town of Herndon. And if we didn't live here and if we wanted to downsize somewhere, I think that might be a place to look at as well.
Interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, couple random questions. We're gonna wrap it up. Couple random questions. What's your favorite movie? You could watch it over and over and over again.
Now you're gonna see, hear the quirky type side of Tim. I could watch Three Amigos, Spies Like Us. I could watch that over. I know.
Unexpected.
When I was in graduate school, a buddy of mine, we just love Spies Like Us. And so he'd come out of his, we were in music school, right? He'd come out of his practice, might come out of mine, and we'd do the Chevy Chase, we was like, want some coffee? Let me get some coffee. So those are but if you want to get into more of like my other great movies, gosh, I love Gladiator. I love those ones that show strength and courage and defeating the small guy defeating the Goliath. That would be where I am. And then if I was in a binge to watch all over again, if I didn't have to have kids watching, going, Daddy, should you be watching that? Be Band of Brothers. I know, yeah. So I'm dating myself, but those are nostalgic to me, and
some good classics.
Yes, there you go.
What book are you reading right now?
Oh, I am reading. Can I pull it up? Oh yeah, this is it's the Donald. Oh goodness. Story brand. Help me out. Donald Miller. Yes. I just started that. So my goal, I know everyone else likes to do, like say, I'm going to read 12 books, like one a month. I usually fail at that. So I'm going to say 7. I'm going to do 7 books. And
do you like physically read or audio?
Yeah, these are 7 that I'll physically read. And then, but I also like, doing audiobooks too. So I got those as well. But these are ones I've got to make sure. I got an accountability partner down in Houston that we're checking in, make sure that I'm reading these books and share with them what I'm learning. Yeah. Okay.
Favorite podcast to listen to?
Ooh. There's a few. So I do like Bigger Pockets.
Good. So good.
Okay. Bigger Pockets, it's solid. It's the best. I love them because it's a no frills, like this is what's going on, and listening to it, getting into an investor's head and listening and learning their failures as well as their wins. It doesn't, when you start thinking like an investor, it doesn't look daunting the way they present it.
Awesome.
You can do it. It's just a matter of listening and taking the steps and the initiative. So Bigger Pockets is probably one I listen to all the time.
Okay. Last question. Any funny or bizarre PCS happening that you come to mind, like either like a crazy challenge, it was like kind of an anomaly, or just everybody's, their whole household goods sunk to the bottom of the ocean when they were coming back, like anything wild that you're just like, I can't make this up?
Yeah, give me a second on that. Oh, yes, I do.
We
Okay.
all have one.
Oh, yeah. So there were some clients, help them sell their townhouse because they said we're never coming back there. We don't see it happening with our rotations. You know, these mid-career officers, usually they can start to see how
Mhm.
how they're going to be tailored towards what they're doing. Like they go, oh yeah, there's not a chance I'm coming back. So sold the house. They were in North Carolina at Fort Bragg. And a year and a half later says, hey, Tim, hey, it's us, and we're coming back. I said, what? You said no. I know. We thought, I seriously didn't think we're coming back. All right. So we started showing properties down in Old Town, Alexandria. Loved it. Found the house. It was gorgeous. Got them under contract, home inspection, all done. And then Sandee, we had so you have this thing up here. We have an HOA review period. I'm not sure if you do in Texas, but like the HOA docs came out and they have 3 days to review the documents. You can rescind the contract for anything
Mhm.
if you needed to, right? So, but those docs didn't show up like for a couple of weeks after we were done with all the other contingencies.
Mhm.
We got the documents, reviewing it. Says this sounds great. He goes, I'm getting bummed tonight. I'll review it and we'll just lift that. Got accepted that we got him. He calls me the next morning. We're in that 3-day window, and he goes, "You won't believe this." I go, "What's up?" And he's like, "I just got accepted to the MBA program at Harvard with the military, and it starts this summer." He says, I can't buy this house." And I went, he said, "I really want to." And I said, "Well, you're in luck." We can get out of this. And I called the other agent, she was completely understanding. She's like, "Oh, we're heartbroken because we really thought this was a good match for you guys," and all that. She's like, "But my client, you got it. You had the HOA," but she was almost like, he's probably going to say, "You're stupid if you don't go."
Right.
So yeah, she was happy. And this was just what they was. So was that a PCS and craziness? It wasn't, but it's just, what it shows a couple of things. One is that the military things change.
Mhm.
And so as an agent, they can change even in the middle of a contract. And we need to know what's going on, the timelines on just about every part of that to know how to take care of our military clients when things change that fast.
Yeah.
And opportunities like, what do you do? I mean, so fortunately, it was good timing. I was like, you can get out of this easily. We can move on. And I want you to go. Get out of here. Go do
Yeah.
it. This is awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was a probably crazy one because it was a beautiful house and everyone was excited. And it just wasn't the right time. And so, and
Yeah.
they felt sorry. I was like, you shouldn't feel sorry. This is your future. This is your career.
Yeah.
This is what you want to do. And I'm just here to help that and to help figure out how to get you out if we needed to. And we
Right.
did it. And so what I call it a win because he got his great program and he's off and he's now a colonel and he's
Wow.
he wants to do. And so, hey, they'll come back. I know most birds come back this way. They just show up. They
Yeah.
flock in. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, we are just about at
Yeah.
time. Anything else you wanted to share? I know we're going to make sure in the comments that we've got all of your Instagram handles. If anybody needs to get in touch with you, of course, we're going to make sure they have that contact as a really, really good resource in the DMV. And I'm just really grateful that you took the time. I know we're all really busy. We could be doing a million other things, but building this collaboration and really creating a space for our military families to come and listen and get to know other agents around military communities, I think is just really something special. So I
Well, it's a
appreciate your
pleasure.
time and I thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy. It's a pleasure for you. I can't wait to see all the great things and how you uncomplicate your life while still keeping your clients on top. I'm excited for you, and I really appreciate how you take care of your clients down there. We see it on Instagram. We see it in your life. We just know that your passion is to take care of clients at a high level, and you do it with the military every time. So thank you.
Yes,
For
thank
that.
you. All
Yeah. All
right. Thank you so much, Tim. We'll talk to you soon.
right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.